everybody. Welcome to Life is Pointless and Has Absolutely No Meaning Whatsoever because my favorite quarterback is out for the season. No, wait, that's not the name of the show. It's Vikings Report Rewind with your humble host, me, Teddy Meniscus for the evening, with my co-hosts and partners in crime, Drew Esteen off to my, that would be to my left, and then right below me, in screen name only, is Darnold Jefferson 24.
Below me.
That is better than any ticket option we have currently. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. It's like the nihilist from the Big Lebowski. You know, nothing means anything. We have, you say what you will, but at least it's an ethos, I guess. But yeah, this last week has sucked. But yeah, we're Vikings fans. We're used to we've gotten to the point of embracing the suck, I think. So yeah, we'll just keep going. They're still going to play 17 games, and it's going to be awesome.
Say what you want about being a Vikings fan, but at least we have an ethos, don't we?
Yes, that is correct.
Drew, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. I'm fired up for the season. I'm not going to play the downer card yet.
Well, good for you.
My boy Drew Esteen finally looking like he did at Georgia.
Yeah.
Last week against the Browns. What a big game for him.
Does it explain why you're wearing a bunch of Twizzlers on your head? What the hell is that?
That's my new hairstyle. Drew Esteen.
Nice.
Drew Esteen. So shout out to my boy. I want to start the show tonight to say hello to everybody and thank you for all the support you guys always give us. I know last week we had a few people donate money to help out with the prize vault. And down below, I saw the chat, people giving money. It helps with the prizes. And we like to give out prizes. It makes us a unique show than anybody else. And we can give back to our listeners for the fine job they do and the time they take for tuning into our show. So I wanted to thank those people last week, and I wanted to thank something I got in the mail. Another way to help the prize vault is to donate prizes themselves to the prize vault, which is exactly what Greg McKnight did. We all know him as the great GMAC. GMAC sent me this brand new spanking cool looking Vikings cap.
Oh, wow, that's nice.
Very sweet.
It is a very, very nice. It's adjustable. So you don't have to worry about the size. GMAC sent this to me. You know, it's fans like that, you guys, that keep the prize vault going. Because, you know, we can only afford to put so much stuff in there. So, another look at that hat. Whoever wins a prize this season can go in and get this hat. But GMAC, thank you so much for taking the time to, you know, send us something in the mail. He's a great fan. He's very sarcastic. He's very knowledgeable. GMAC is a VIP VR listener.
And he's been a day one fan as well. He's been with us since like day one too.
Right.
Speaking of prizes, the prize vault, if you want to be a potential prize winner, all you got to do is comment. Like Brad Morin, Anthony Tullis, Raymond Hoagland, Nicholas Roussan. Just make a comment, and Ruby's making a list, checking it twice. She's not even going to check if you're naughty or nice. All you got to do is make a list. Once you're on the list, you're eligible to win a prize. She's going to spin the Toons' Wheel of Destiny at the end, and she will send you a link as long as you contact her at Vikings Report with Drew and Ted at gmail.com. Don't blow the train whistle. My God. Look, Boxcar Willie, put that shit down.
I'm excited about this season. You know, we may have been dealt some bad cards with the Blackman thing and JJ with the meniscus, Ted. But I've been playing poker a lot of years. And if you play a lot of poker, you very well know it's pretty common that the bad hand wins a lot of hands. So you never know.
No, it doesn't. If you get it like a nine of diamonds and a 10 of clubs, you got jack, damn it.
What you got is you got cards. You got to know how to play the cards. You can play those cards and still win. My point being, we can lose guys, but if O'Connell has a good plan, Flores has a good plan, and everybody comes together with that good plan, you could still win games. That's my poker reference. Is that I've seen a bad hand win a lot of games with the bluffing.
So Chris, what I think he's saying is you got to know when to hold them. Know when
and no one, because every hand's a winner and every hand's a loser. and like most Vikings fans, the best that we can hope for is to die in our sleep.
Yeah.
What's that from?
That's
the gambler.
Kenny Rogers. Come on, man.
Oh yeah. Kenny Rogers. Yeah.
All right. I think that I think your wig is constricting blood flow.
You know
to your head.
what?
I learned a lot about blood flow to the brain this last
It
3 weeks or whatever.
it feels like it's about 190,000 degrees on top of my head right now. I'm gonna leave it on for another 5 minutes and then I'll be ripping it off. But you gotta follow the, just like he's a great leader, JJ McCarthy. He was a great leader. We'll see that in the future, just like we did from our great leader, Douglas McCarthy, our great military leader.
That'd be Douglas MacArthur, but I get the reference. Okay.
Either way.
Wait, what?
Douglas MacArthur, not McCarthy.
He might have been
I
thinking
don't
of
think
Joseph. He might have been thinking of Joseph McCarthy, which is not an example we want to follow because that would be
No, Chris,
that would be bad.
It's Douglas McCarthy.
I am not, nor have I ever been a member of the Green Bay Packers.
All right,
everybody. Who's in the chat? Is Red David Stefano? What are you guys at?
We got Tollison, we got Nicholas Roussan. We got a few people in there right now. Hopefully it'll grow as the show goes on. Before we get going, once again, as always, please head on over to Purple Pain Forums, purplepainforums.com, our home on the internet, where you can find our show. Great community of Vikings fans. Join up, get an account, start interacting right away. Drew looks like Sideshow Bob. He does. Thank you, Norsefius, for getting us off and running.
Drink Red Stripe, man. Red Stripe beer. Yay, beer.
And Chris is still the lead blogger and owner of the SB Nation Vikings website, the Daily Norseman, dailynorseman.com. Head on over there. Get all your Vikings news there. Don't go anywhere else, because everywhere else sucks for the written word, pretty much, except for maybe one or two other sites. But hang out at the end. All righty. And for us, if you would, like our buddy Luft Krieger said, and by the way, Dave, our buddy Luft Krieger, Dave Stefano, I've known Dave, golly, since 2004, one of my best friends, gave us a really nice shout out on his show, Two Old Bloggers with Darren Campbell, yesterday. Thank you, Dave. If you would, I'd like to return the favor. Go check out that show. It's one of the few shows when I'm not sleeping 14 hours a day because of my stupid concussion. It's one of the few shows I do watch. Dave and Darren are, in fact, old, but their age gives them wisdom and insight that you won't find anywhere else.
I tell you, you want good information from guys who are knowledgeable about football. Darren Campbell, David Stefano, watch that show on Sundays. Two Old Bloggers. It is great. Great show.
Yeah, so go check them out as well. All right. So we might as well just get the bad news and rip out of the way first, rip the Band-Aid off. JJ McCarthy had a great debut a couple weeks ago in his preseason opener against the Raiders, threw a couple touchdowns, looked really good. Everybody's hyped up. Woke up the next morning with a little knee soreness, which we all do.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out he had a torn meniscus, and the Vikings opted, I think, sensibly, for the full repair, which means, sadly, he is out for the season. So,
once again, the Vikings make history in the wrong direction because apparently McCarthy is the first quarterback drafted in the first round in the Super Bowl era who will miss his entire rookie year due to injury.
Man, that's
only this team, man. Only this team. I'm not even. Yeah, terrible.
Damn franchise, man. But Drew, you were trying. When we first came on, before we came on the air, we logged onto the site and all that. I was all, Mr. Life is pointless and has no meaning. You're trying to fire me up, and you're saying all is not lost, though. You don't think this is there are people that were saying, look, it's not that big a deal. McCarthy was going to sit the entire year anyway. I disagree. I think he was going to start week one. I think that was the plan all along. I think everything else was just smoke and mirrors from Kevin O'Connell, and he was going to get more reps with the first team this coming week up to leading up to the Browns game, which the Vikings won 27-12. But yeah, it's now and then when McCarthy went out, they pulled Darnold. He didn't play at all on Saturday. It was Nick Mullins, Jaron Hall, and then a little bit of Matt Corral at the end where he fumbled the ball out of the end zone for a safety. But Drew, you don't think this is a lost season at all, do you?
No, I'm really bummed about the JJ thing, but I don't, because I think that the Vikings are going to have a good plan, and this is the best group of players, not just starters, but the depth that I've seen in a while. I was really impressed with that preseason game against the Browns, and And sure, the JJ thing sets us back, and you won't be able to get on the field and get things started. But still think the Vikings are going to really surprise some people this year. We're going to tell really early. The first 5 weeks are going to tell us what we got because we got some tough games in there. But you know what? I just feel like they're going to have it together. And don't get alarmed about the defense in preseason because Flores isn't showing anything. He's going totally vanilla. You're going to see a much more aggressive defense. You're going to see a much more, diagnosed defense where they know the plan, but the offense won't. They're going to disguise a lot of stuff. There's no reason to show it now. Preseason, no reason to show anything like that. But I don't know. I'm pretty fired up on the season still. I don't think the McCarthy thing is going to set us back as bad as it's going to, of course you want the first round pick to play, and the Blackman thing was big, but Gilmore coming in, the Vikings would not be thrown in the towel if they didn't go get Gilmore. I don't think. Hey, Fanagi,
Jason Fanagi, another $10 contribution. Thank you, Jason. That's very kind of you. Thank you. I agree. Look, and people that say, and we see this every year in almost every fan base, they just need to tank for whoever the presupposed first round draft pick is. I would like somebody who believes in tanking to walk up to Harrison Smith, for example.
Right.
A guy who has poured 12 years of his heart and soul into this organization, and say, you know what, Hitman, you came back for one last ride. Let's just go ahead and just not try this year. If he punched you, you would deserve it. First of all, Chris. Yeah, the Vikings aren't going to tank.
And not just the players. I mean, the Vikings have a coach on their roster in Brian Flores, who, when he was the head coach in Miami, had the owner come to him and essentially say, hey, we need you to start losing football games. And Brian Flores said, no, you can kiss my ass, and went out and didn't lose. Tell Brian Flores you're going to try to tank this season. See how that works.
Won't happen.
And not only that, because of that, Brian Flores sued the NFL, and that lawsuit is ongoing, which means I think Flores will stay as the Vikings defensive coordinator at least this year, obviously, and then probably next year. And then we'll talk about it later. There were some comments made by his old quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, down in Miami about what a dick Flores was to him. But
whatever.
Here's my thing. Flores is a defensive coach. Defensive coaches historically don't like quarterbacks, and people who are calling Tua soft or whatever, or Flores a dick or whatever, seem to forget the Mike Zimmer-Kirk Cousins relationship. Zimmer hated Kirk Cousins, and Cousins was an 8-year veteran when he came to the Vikings, for God's sakes. So, one thing I did like, though, at Flores' press conference today, both Harrison Phillips and Josh Metellus, Drew, your Michigan guy, Josh Metellus, were there throughout the press conference supporting him, which I think that's all you need to know about what the Vikings players think of Brian Flores.
Exactly right. Brian Flores could give a rat's ass about what Tua thinks. You know what, Tua?
Absolutely.
You know what, Tua? Shut up.
Well, I mean, and for what it's worth, I mean, Flores owned up to the comment. I mean, he's like,
he did.
He did, and he's like, look, I'll try and be a better person, and I wish Tua nothing but the best. He handled it about as well as a guy could handle it.
You gotta, to even say something, you're just a weenie to begin with.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand. I can understand not wanting to have that kind of animosity, but on the other hand, the coach is not there to be your friend. He's there to be your coach. He's there to help you learn the game and get better and whatnot. And we all played sports in high school or whatever. Freaking coaches yelled at us all the damn time. I mean,
did more than yell. Back in my day, they hit you, and push you down.
Basically, stop screwing up, stop being an idiot, that kind of thing. Just do it right the way I'm telling you to do it. That's the coach's job. The coach's job is to not be your pal. He's there to help you get better. And he has a different way of doing that, and Tua didn't like it. Whatever. He's not the coach in Miami anymore, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Speaking of the Vikings defense, you mentioned Stephen Gilmore. He signed, I think, the day after the Browns game. Would that have been yesterday?
Couple days after the. Yeah.
or Sunday. I guess the game was on Saturday, so he would have signed Sunday.
I believe so.
1-year
Yeah.
deal up to $10 million max he can make. Look, Gilmore's been a good player for a long time. He's been an All-Pro a few times. He's had solid PFF grades the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, he's never really had a dip in productivity, if you will. I still called it a Patrick Peterson 2.0 signing. I got kind of put on blast by a few people on the artist formerly known as Twitter. What do you guys think of this signing, Drew? What you like it? You happy with it? You good with it?
I'm very good with it. I think he gets off the plane the best corner we got. I mean, you remember how many years? 12 years in the league.
Been around the block, yeah.
165 games, 31 career picks. Last year, the last 2 seasons, he's only missed 1 game. So you're talking about a cornerback on the Vikings. That'd be a hell of a thing to do on the Vikings. I mean, we don't have a lot of durability. Guys lasting a long time. Had 17 games last year. He had 2 picks, 54 solo tackles, which is pretty good. He's always been a pretty good tackler. Not what he used to be, but certainly is a capable corner that's not going to be out of position and can make sure guys could be kind of a coach back there with Hitman Smith. I love the signing. I think it's a great signing, and I think I don't think he signs here unless he sees the Vikings got a shot. He knows talent. Gilmore been in this league a long time, played with under Belichick. I mean, come on. He played with some big teams over there in New England. That guy knows if you have talent enough to carry yourself, and I think he's signing to be part of something that may just blow up this year and be really nice.
So Shaq Griffin is back then, Chris. So you got Byron Murphy Jr., Shaq Griffin, and now Gilmore as the top 3 corners for the Vikings right now.
Yeah, they went from real young at quarterback to real experienced pretty quickly. You said, Gilmore's been solid the last few years, even though he's been getting up there in age. Former NFL Defensive Player of the Year. I think it was 2019, so it was a while back, but it's still significant.
6 picks and 2 touchdowns in 2019, Chris.
But yeah, I mean, like Drew said, the durability of the guys at the cornerback position has not been great for this team. But if we can keep those top 3 guys healthy, they're a lot better than they were last year. Because it wasn't that long ago we were talking about a Caleb Evans and whoever else at the top of the cornerback depth chart. Now you've got 3 legitimate guys who have been getting the job done for a while. So yeah, I mean, Murphy will go play slot corner while Griffin and Gilmore are on the outsides now. So that seems pretty solid to me.
Ted.
Yeah.
Just look at the cornerback group and the safety group. And isn't that better than it was last year? Or maybe the last couple of years? It feels like it's better to me.
Well, I mean, I think it was just last week we were talking, Byron Murphy and then Caleb Evans and then what? I mean, because Mekhi Blackman got hurt, practice day 1 at training camp. Kyrie Jackson was tragically killed in that car accident. I mean, there were a lot of questions in the secondary. And now, we're pretty set. I think the Vikings were pretty set at safety with Hitman and Metellus and Bynum just kind of rotating in and around. And I know we call Metellus the safety, but the way Brian Flores uses him, I don't know what to call him. Kind of like a joker wild card guy. I don't know what position he plays because he can play everywhere. Yeah. And I don't. When I say joker, I don't mean as a joke, but I mean as a wild card. He could just play just about. I remember him lining up on the defensive line a couple times last year. Anyways, but be that as it may, you've got. So then we talk about that, and then let's talk about Drew Aseen. And I believe it was a GMAC that just said he better take that wig off before the Vikings trade him.
Who said it's a wig?
GMAC said Drew needs to take off that wig before the Vikings trade him, and that was kind of the speculation because Lewis Cine finally had a game that we wanted him to have when he was drafted, when he was Kwesi Adolfo-Mensa's first pick in the 2022 2022 draft. He had a sack, he had an interception, he had a big hit on the Browns quarterback. It was just vintage Georgia Lewis Cine.
Right.
And I asked the question on Twitter, does did he play himself into a roster spot with that performance on Saturday, Drew?
I think he did. I think he's going to make the roster. I think you still have that. He still has that first round card, even though it's kind of tainted at this point. Like I told Ruby, I said we watched the Browns game, and after the game, I said, "This is why you don't want to get rid of Scene. He goes to another team and starts kicking ass. You want to make sure he's dead in the water before you cut that guy, because you never know. He could. I mean, look what he did. I know it was preseason, but still, I think he gets a roster spot just because you can't give up on him quite yet. He has one more run at it, and then you make a decision.
So you've got right now the Vikings depth chart. They show Harrison Smith and Cam Bynum, Josh Metellus, and then Theo Jackson ahead of Lewis Scene.
Right.
And Jay and Warden Scene are both third string guys. Chris, do you think he did enough, or does he still have to do more to make the roster, or does Saturday's performance plus his first round draft pedigree get him a roster spot?
I think he did wind up playing himself into a roster spot. I don't know who they're going to dump to make sure he stays on the roster. Probably going to be Ward, if anybody. But like Drew said, you get that first round pedigree that buys you a whole lot more chances than he's not like a undrafted rookie free agent or anything like that put together a game like this. Yeah, I think he does wind up making the team. I don't know how much he plays. I mean, given that all the four guys on the depth chart at safety are legitimately ahead of him at this point. But he's got to start doing something on special teams. Probably he's got to start making impact somewhere else, because if you're the fifth safety, you're not going to play a lot of safety. You're going to play a lot of special teams,
right?
And you're going to have to make your impact there before you get on to the field if someone gets hurt or someone doesn't play well or something like that.
He's like Drake Rodriguez. You got to play yourself into a position at this point.
Yeah, I think he is. Nicholas Russon with a comment. We cut Carlson far too quickly, but we've been in danger of hanging on to Scene for too long. His game in Cleveland showed there was enough to justify keeping him or higher trade value. Let's talk about that, because there was a lot of speculation.
Very good comment.
That Scene's performance may have upped his trade value if the Vikings were to go that route, because if they, we talked about where he sits on the depth chart, and you can't complain if the Vikings don't keep Scene based on who they have above him right now, other than maybe Jay Ward, maybe. If they were to trade him, what do you think they could get for him in terms of compensation, Chris?
It wouldn't be much. You're talking about a day 3 pick, probably some sort of conditional day 3 pick based on how much he plays for his new team and that sort of thing. But it's one of those situations where he's worth more to the Vikings at this point than he's going to be worth somewhere else, because if you trade him, then he's got to learn the new scheme again. He's been in the defense for a couple of years, at least in Minnesota, where if he does get called on, he has some idea what's happening. But I don't think you'd get very much for him in a trade at this point, to be quite honest with you.
Drew?
I agree. You're not going to get what, a 6th rounder? That's what I'm thinking.
I was thinking of 5 or 6, maybe a 4th because he was a former first round pick. But yeah, it's not going to be a lot.
I agree with Chris. You're better off rolling the dice, keeping him with a player that showed as much talent. I mean, you said it best, Ted. He looked like a Georgia Bulldog against the Browns. The thing I noticed when he was on Georgia, granted he had a good front 7 in front of him, that guy was always around the football at Georgia. And he finally showed us that in that game against Cleveland. But that's one game. Got a long way to go. But you're not going to get much higher than a 6th round pick for that guy. Right.
Folks, we got about 130 people in our room, watching us right now. So thanks for joining us. Again, if you want to have a chance to win a prize, make a comment. In our live stream, Ruby is jotting down names, and she's putting them in some digital electronic computer. In the hopper.
Throwing them in the hopper.
In the wheel thing, which we will spin at the end of the show for a prize winning. Maybe if Ben Affleck joins us, he can get a potential prize to console himself over the fact that J-Lo has filed for divorce again. That's like
Again?
their fourth. Yeah, they're
She's going for Liz Taylor numbers at this point, I think, isn't she? I mean, dang.
How many times
Mickey
have you been married?
laughs and Mickey Rooney.
I don't know how
I
he
think J Lo's up to about 4. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, she's
Affleck
getting yeah.
got rid of Jennifer Garner. What a fool.
Oh,
Who
well.
cares?
All
If
right.
she
So,
has 6 toes on one foot. You know that?
okay.
Jen Garner?
Okay.
I don't know. Somebody might have been wondering how many toes she has on her feet. Check in with this. Are we done talking about Lewis Cine?
Sure. Unless you got anything else you want to say.
That is on fire. Good.
All right. So on Saturday,
how do they wear those things?
Real quick recap. You guys have probably read all that you've wanted to read or see that you've all wanted to see about the Vikings 27-12 win over Cleveland. Sam Darnold didn't play because they don't want to risk injuring him. We saw the Nick Mullins show last year, and it's a wild roller coaster.
Yeah.
But look, Nick Mullins is a capable backup. People that don't like Nick Mullins, I don't get. He is who he is, and he's a guy that can run the offense and move the offense down the field. And we saw that how glaringly obvious that was when the Josh Dobbs experiment started to fail after the Saints game, I believe it was last year. Josh Dobbs just couldn't move the Vikings offense. Nick Mullins can come in and at least move it for a couple games. He's gonna turn the ball over, but he can at least be a competent backup quarterback. So I've got no problem with Mullins being the backup this year. Do you guys have an issue with it?
No. I mean, if we get to the point where Mullins is out there, like we saw last year, we're in trouble anyway. So it could just as well be entertaining. I mean,
Mullins is
nothing
just
else.
as good as any other backup, isn't he? I mean,
the dude threw for over 700 yards in 2 games against the Lions last year.
I know he was catching a lot of grief in that Cleveland game, but like Dave Stefano said on the Blogger show yesterday, and Darren Campbell brought it up saying he's exciting to watch. He is exciting to watch, but I don't know if he's not a bum. I mean, he's capable of winning games, and that's what you want from your backup. I know there's some backup quarterbacks in this league you can't win with. I know that by watching these other teams play.
Yeah.
I mean, we ran Sean Mannion out there as a backup for 3 or 4 years. I mean, we knew we had no chance with that guy. I mean, he was terrible.
Terrible.
The one thing with Mullins, you know, I've said is his turnovers, and I've kind of described Nick Mullins this way. He's got a gunslinger mentality without the gunslinger athleticism. I mean, he cannot fit a football into a window that he wants to throw it into. It's going to get picked. But I love the dude's mental approach to the game. Anthony Tollison, he's a F you Mullins guy.
F you Mullins, F you Dobbs. F you everything.
But moving on from Mullins, about the luckiest guy on the Vikings roster, kind of the exact opposite of JJ McCarthy is Jaron Hall, because after the Raiders game, we said Jaron Hall was like the 5th quarterback on a 3-quarterback team, or at least I did, kind of jokingly, because he had a terrible game. JJ McCarthy's injury pretty much guaranteed Jaron Hall a roster spot, especially after Matt Corral had his inauspicious debut as a Viking. And look, Jaron Hall looked solid in his mop-up duty against the Browns. He had that really nice long touchdown pass.
Yep.
I'm telling you, no issue. Now, again, Jaron Hall's got no business starting an NFL game. We saw what he did when he started the first half in that Packers game late in the year. But I think he pretty much secured himself a roster spot as well, Chris.
He certainly did. I mean, he's going to be the 3rd quarterback probably, but you know, he already looks better than he did last year, because last year, even in the preseason, it was basically one read and then run for your life for Hall. But yeah, he wound up in starting that game against the Packers last year. He never should have been in that situation. That's not his fault. I mean, to this day, I still don't know why O'Connell threw him out there. I mean, he would have been better off with Mullins or Dobbs at that point. But you know, his ceiling is not super high, but you know, he's going to be the 3rd quarterback, and if something happens to Darnold and Mullins, they're going to have to throw somebody out there. And you know, at this point, there's nothing left on the free agent market either if you want to bring somebody in. I mean, it's Ryan Tannehill and a bunch of dudes you've never heard of in free agency essentially at this point. So, yeah.
If McCarthy, Darnold, and Nick Mullins all get hurt and are out for a significant amount of time, like Bill Murray said in Meatballs, it just doesn't
matter.
It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
Nice.
I mean, at that point, it wouldn't. It would just be, what's the point?
That's the most comfortable Hall's ever looked for a Viking.
Yeah, I think so.
It really is.
Before, like Chris said, he was just one read and scramble. It was either one read and scramble, or it was one read and throw it out of bounds. He kept throwing it out of bounds. I'm going, you gotta find a receiver, at least take a chance. But we all know he's a progression player. He's not going to be ready right now, so at least he's progressing. So good for him.
Yeah. Somebody mentioned it earlier, and I meant to say it when I saw the comment pop up, and I don't know if this is true or not, but they mentioned that Wes Phillips called this game for the Vikings offense.
He did. They mentioned that in the booth, and there was a couple of defensive assistants that split the game for the Vikings calling the defensive side. I think it might have been Durante Jones did the first half, and one of the linebackers coaches did the second half on defense.
Okay.
So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see them do that in Philly too. Maybe give like Keenan McCardle a chance to run the offense or something. But yeah, that's kind of cool of O'Connell to do, I think.
Since you mentioned Keenan McCardle, the Vikings wide receiver coach, highly regarded assistant coach, let's talk about the Vikings wide receiver depth. During the joint practices with Cleveland, it looked like Jordan Addison might have been seriously hurt for a minute, but it turns out he just had a high ankle sprain. He might miss. He avoided serious injury, but he might miss week 1. They're still kind of playing that by ear. So after Justin Jefferson, if Jordan Addison is out, it looks like the wide receiver depth from there, are we going Tristan Jackson, WR3, or Brandon Powell, Drew? How are you seeing the depth after JJ and Addison? And who steps up if Addison can't go week 1?
Well, you got Jackson, and then Powell, like you said, and then Naylor. So there's all.
Naylor. Yeah, I'm sorry. Jalen Naylor's had a heck of a training camp. He'll be wide receiver 3. My bad.
I'm no wide receiver expert, but I know that Powell is a very good possession guy, and he's been thrown into the fire too, and he answered to it. Some of those, his catches made in Buffalo or whatever. Some of those games he made those big catches in. So, he's probably more proven than the rest. I am a big Tristan Jackson fan now. He looks like a natural out there. He looks like Will Fuller, but he can actually catch the ball. That's what he reminds me of. It's Will Fuller at Notre Dame.
Wow.
He could find the open areas like Will Fuller could at Notre Dame, and he looks like he's just looks natural out there catching the ball. I don't know. It's not much of a description. You know what I mean? He just looks like he's confident, natural. He catches the ball. Like he caught this one comeback route against Cleveland, and he caught it and went down. And he got up shaking his head like, dude, hit me in stride.
Yeah.
And he got up kind of like wishing he could have got the ball, caught it in a different kind of trajectory. But I think he's the third best receiver on the team.
Well, it was Jackson that had that toe tap touchdown in the end zone, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was a play that I think receivers at his age and experience level with a throw that's kind of off like that, I have a hard time making. I mean, that was a restaurant quality NFL catch by Tristan, Mr. Jackson, if you're nasty.
Yeah, Nick Ruson's probably right. He probably would have to give Naylor an edge over it, but I like both those guys.
Yeah, that was just. I mean, I still look. Every mistake I make this year, I'm going to blame on my traumatic brain injury. So, I think Jalen Naylor is squarely wide receiver 3 behind Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. If Addison does not play week 1, I think Naylor will go to 2. Then probably Tristan Jackson and Brandon Powell or Powell. But either way, when you look at the Vikings' depth from top to bottom, whether they go with 5 or 6 wide receivers, I think everybody talks about the Packers wide receivers, the Lions wide receivers, the Bears. Nobody's talking about the Vikings wide receivers. And they have the best wide receiver in the freaking game in Justin Jefferson. I would put this wide receiver core up against anybody in the NFL.
No, absolutely. Like you said, Justin Jefferson already puts them on top of a lot of teams as far as what quality wide receivers. If Addison's healthy, we saw what he did last year. He scored 10 touchdowns as a rookie, which is solid. You know, you got these younger guys like Tristan Jackson, Jalen Naylor. If they can stay healthy, guys are going to start emerging. And you know, as long as Kevin O'Connell is running this offense, he's going to scheme receivers to get open, and dudes are going to have opportunities to make plays.
And just because Toons has asked for the percentage, Naylor, I didn't even know her. So there we go.
Nice.
Well, we have some receivers to choose from. That's the point.
Yep.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, do you guys remember back in the halcyon days of Diggs and Thielen? There was guys like Chad Beebe behind them. I mean, there was nothing.
Right.
And I remember back when the Atlanta Braves were still playing in Milwaukee, they had two pitchers, Warren Spahn and I think it was Johnny Sain, and their saying was Spahn and Sain and pray for rain. And that's pretty much all the Vikings had. They had two guys and nothing else behind him. And now they have, you know, Addison. Jefferson went down last year. Addison stepped up, and then Powell stepped up behind Addison, and he had that game-winning catch
against the Falcons.
Against the Falcons, in the Dobbs game, in the Dobbs debut game, and Powell, and then Jefferson came back and still had over 1,000 yards, and now you think Addison might miss the first game, and I have no worries. And you have that asterisk about Jalen Naylor, quote, as long as he can stay healthy, unquote. The dude has looked explosive in the one catch he had against the Browns in that first preseason game and throughout training camp.
I got a quick question for you guys.
What you got?
Without Hawkinson in there, we're not much of a threat at tight end. We all know that. Do the Vikings, until Hawkinson comes back, do they run some 3 wideout stuff? Or are they strictly going to go with just a 2 wideout?
I mean, I think they're gonna have to do something to mitigate that because, you know, like you said, Hawkinson adds a dimension to this offense that none of the other tight ends currently do. And, you know, you can't replicate that with, you know, Josh Oliver, Nick Muse, or Robert Tonyan, or whoever else. So they're going to have to do something to mitigate that. And yeah, it might be a more 3 wide receiver sets. I know they want to try to commit to running the ball a little more, but you know, you got to play to what you've got. And if you don't have TJ Hawkinson, you got to make those adjustments.
Well, Brad Marin also just commented, plus a running back that can catch. Aaron Jones is going to be a pretty decent threat out of the backfield, I think.
That's a good point.
Catching the football that we really didn't have last year.
Speaking out of the backfield, can we talk about Wang Chung?
Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's talk.
I was there. I was watching this game, and I look at Ruby, and I said, usually I can comp a player. He reminds me of. I didn't know he was such a tackle breaker. I know he's got speed from his kickoff return days, but he looked like baby Earl Campbell against the Browns. He's breaking tackles. He's running right through tackles. But no, I know. But I said to Ruby, I go, Tootses, I'm going to let Chris and Ted give me a comp on the guy. Because how do you compare? What kind of running? What does he look like to you? He's looking great in there. He's good vision, finding the open gaps and running. Talk about running hard. That guy runs violently in the middle. But does he remind you of anybody in particular?
I got 2 words for you.
Oh, don't say it.
This is going back.
Beanie Wells?
No. Former Viking running back.
Horde?
Terry Allen.
That's a solid one.
That's a good comp.
If we get him, catch them passes out of the backfield, I might think, you know, like Amp Lee or something like that too. But he had the ability to make some guys miss. But you know, Terry Allen's a solid comp. I mean, I know he's not at the Terry Allen level yet, but he looked like an actual running back for probably the first time since. I mean, I know he hasn't gotten a lot of opportunities in the offense or whatever, but you know, once they made it clear that that Ty Chandler wasn't going to play anymore on Saturday, Longwood looked solid. He did.
He looks like a goal line guy to me.
You know, last week against the Raiders, he had that long, 49 or 50-yard touchdown run. And impressive run. Don't get me wrong, but overall, take that run away, and you really can. I get it. But the rest of his runs, I didn't think were all that impressive. I thought he ran consistently well the entire game that he was in against the Browns. I'm still not sure he's a guy that's going to get a lot of carries and see a lot of action in the backfield, especially now with Aaron Jones there. Ty Chandler, I think, is a solid number 2 behind Jones. But yeah, but Wang Wu finally sort of showed up. He went chunged on Saturday.
He did.
And everybody had fun that night. Everybody Wang chunged that night.
Listen to Ted throwing out those 80 references. How old were you in 84, Ted? How old were you?
17.
What?
Turned 17.
Wow. Young Tedster.
Damn old people. Jesus.
Yeah, it was. It's fun to watch. You guys, I'm not trying to be a downer here or a hater. I don't trust Aaron Jones's health. I hope he never gets hurt, but it's going to be good to have those two guys kind of committing together. I'm worried about Aaron Jones. He gets these nagging hamstrings all the time, and I'm just glad the running back room looks good right now. So
yeah,
that's what I'm happy for.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about wide receiver depth. I'm just as happy with the running back depth, and I agree with you, Drew. I don't know how you feel about it, Chris, but yeah, Aaron Jones has had a couple straight seasons now with injuries that have hampered him. But when they finally last year ended the Alexander Madison experiment and put in Ty Chandler, the Vikings running game came to life, and it I don't want to say took off, but it was demonstrably better than it was the first 11, 12 games, whatever it was with Madison starting. So if something happens to Aaron Jones, I don't think the Vikings will be nearly as hesitant to go to Ty Chandler like they were for whatever reason last year with Madison, Chris.
Whatever reason.
No, I don't think they would be either. Chandler showed what he was capable of toward the end of last season. So, like you said, they don't have Madison on the roster anymore. He's going to get his chances.
Yeah. Real quick with the defense, the Vikings' run defense looked very stout. Again, it was mostly backups. We didn't see Dallas Turner. I don't believe he played. Most of the first-team defense did not play. It was kind of the second-team show for both the Vikings offense and defensive units. But Bo Richter, again, had a sack. Dwight McLaughlin had an interception and a long return. Yeah. The depth of this team has sort of been a theme, I guess, for this episode. And it just seems Levi Drake Rodriguez kind of had some more plays. It just seems, guys, that we talked, and Drew, you really have hit on this a lot, and since we started this show, that depth is so crucial if you're going to have a good football team. And it just seems like the Vikings are doing a really good job at building back the depth on their 2 and 3 deep positions on defense. I'm still kind of worried about the starting defensive line, especially the interior. I don't think there's that Hall & Oates man-eater nose tackle.
Nice 84 reference there. Man-eater 84.
But with the way Brian Flores schemes his defense, and he has better players this year, I'm not as concerned about it as I would be, but it's still something. And no, let's not compare Levi Drake Rodriguez to John Randall yet. I mean, he's a good guy. He's a good player. I think he's going to be a good player, but John Randall's in the Hall of Fame. Let's let LDR be LDR.
He's Mata Alpha right now. Let's let him work through these people.
Yeah. But yeah. So I just I'm liking what I'm seeing depth wise so far.
I will say you talked about the defensive interior a little bit. One guy that showed up and was all over the place against the Browns, and I'm going to absolutely destroy his name here probably, but Taki Taimani, the big interior. It seemed like pretty much every play the Browns. Absolutely, bless you. But yeah, it seemed like every time the Browns tried to run the football in the second half of that game, that dude was just squashing people. I mean, he was, I think, if I remember seeing right online, he actually got the highest PFF grade for the Vikings defense against Cleveland. He was up in the 90s or something like that grade-wise. He was everywhere. I mean, he's another undrafted guy. I don't know if he's going to make the squad, but he certainly made a case for himself on Saturday because he was dominating whoever was in front of him for most of the second half.
Drew, who's been the most impressive defensive player? And let's go with the second or third team guy that stood out the most to you.
For the whole preseason, both those games.
Yeah.
Just to piggyback on what Chris said, that Dallas Gant falls right in there. He played a really good game against the Browns also. Defensive lineman. I would have to say McLovin on the outside. At the cornerback position. We've had so much with the death and the knee injury and the other guy. We're all worried about cornerback, and he seems to be at both games. McLovin. You get a fake ID and you have one name on that? What are you, Seal? we haven't done Superman. We got to do that movie.
Yeah, we do.
I like him. He's my favorite. He's my favorite in the defense. Your favorite guy for the first couple of preseason games that stood out to me. I think he's good. I think he's going to make the team. And he's going to be a great guy for depth to bring in if somebody gets injured or whatever.
And he's showing fourth on the depth chart. They got Gilmore and Byron Murphy starters, Caleb Evans, Shaq Griffin, and McLaughlin. And McLaughlin, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's an undrafted free agent, correct?
He is. He played at Arkansas.
Yeah. Okay.
I think someone said. I mean, if we want to go back to PFF graders, I think someone said he was the highest rated corner in the SEC last year, which is not nothing.
Wow, really? And he went undrafted.
Somehow, yeah.
Just the way he turns, the hip turn that Trey Wayne's never had. The way he does it. Also, that AJ Green guy. Was that his name? The guy we got?
Yeah, AJ Green the third.
He looked pretty good. He was out there as well. I mean, that was the trade. That was the trade we made with Dallas, right? Was that the guy?
No, that was what's his name, Wright, that came over from Dallas. Okay. I don't know if I heard that guy's name once on Saturday. So I don't know.
McLovin, he's going to be a good asset out. The good thing about Gilmore is he's seen so much, Ted. He doesn't need to be trained. He knows every defense.
Well, and he was with Flores in New England, so he knows the defense. So he steps right in. Obviously, as a day one starter. I mean,
great signing. Great signing.
I think him and Harrison Smith are going to be, like we talked about, kind of coaches on the field. They're going to be, their experience in this defense and their experience just in the NFL in general are going to be invaluable to these young guys.
Who's your defensive guy that stood out, Ted?
Bo Richter. I love these future lieutenants that somehow that can somehow get out of their 4-year commitment, serve on active duty, and play football. God love them.
What about the other military guy? We got Richter at Air Force. What about the Army guy?
Andre Carter?
Yeah.
Carter was kicking ass on Saturday.
Yeah, he was.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think Carter is probably a practice squad guy, I'm thinking. Richter might make the team just because the interior defensive line has so many questions, and he's played pretty well. But he might be a practice squad guy too. I think he's right on the edge right now, in my opinion. That's just me.
Well, let's see what they do against Philly this week. Against that offensive line, maybe see if against the starters. I don't know.
Man, I've had a rough month, and I hate the freaking Eagles, man. All right, Ruby, are you out there?
Hello.
Out there.
Hello,
puppet. All right.
Here we go.
Ted hates it. We gotta have the sound effect, or we're gonna do it all over again.
So I put everybody's name on there 3 times, so you have 3 times the chance of winning. There we go.
Menage a trois.
Oh, here we go. VR After Dark.
Mac, I bet you anything he's going to say spin again.
G-Mac. Yeah, spin it again.
G-Mac.
Congratulations, G-Mac.
G-Mac. I want that hat.
Do you want me to spin it again?
No, only if he wants to. It's up to him. It's his call.
Yeah.
G-Mac's won like,
you know what? Spin it again anyways. If G-Mac wants a prize, we'll give a prize out to the second person as well. So spin it again anyways.
Basically, we just like to see it spun. We like the wheel.
Yeah.
We do.
Here we go.
That's a better spin anyway. The Price is Right spin.
No way.
All
Ah,
right, well, let's spin it again.
with
That
the
doesn't
random
count.
Yeah, that's the random result. This sumbitch is rigged. What the hell?
It's like Ocean's 11. Oh,
There we go.
North
Norse
Fiat.
Fias. All right. Well done. All right. You guys are
Great,
both
great,
past winners,
great.
I believe. Get a hold of Ruby at Vikings Report with Drew and Ted at gmail.com. She'll send you a link to the prize vault. You can pick out a prize. They'll get it out to you.
Norfius always has great comments.
Yeah, he does. He does. All right. So Vikings moved to 2-0 on the preseason. Heading towards the Super Bowl with slinging Sammy darts.
I'm excited, Ted.
Hell yeah,
I'll
let's
get
just get
there.
to the regular season. To hell with this.
You gotta,
I'll get there.
it's you gotta have faith.
I'll get there.
You gotta.
You know, I've got more faith. We're Vikings fans, man. That's all we do is have faith. Just
Yep.
give me an easy 19-0 season where they beat everybody 50-0 just once in my life. That'd be nice.
That would be nice, Ted Glavy.
All right. Drew Bunting, any last comments before we sign off and say goodnight to the fine folks that are watching?
I'm just going to say thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you for the fans. Like I said earlier, donating the money for the prize vault and helping out with that. And just seeing the comments, man. Everybody in the chat, our fans and Vikings Report make us so much smarter, make me smarter because I'm kind of a dumbass, but I don't mean that in a bad way.
You didn't fall off a golf cart, so whatever.
We'll be back. We'll be back after the. Well, we're going to show up for the Philly game next week, right? We're going to do a recap.
Yeah, I think we're going to do.
We were going to do it after the rosters were.
Yeah.
That right.
We're going to do a live show the day after the initial 53 man.
When's the cut day? Next Tuesday or
Tuesday? So I think we were going to do a show Wednesday.
Yeah. So a week from tomorrow is we'll do it live.
Yes. So let's do that. Looking forward to more talking. I always like talking football with you guys. You guys are crazy.
Chris?
Yeah, Drew pretty much hit the nail on the head. Always a good time talking football with you guys, and thanks to everyone in the chat for showing up and leaving the comments and interacting with the show. It's always great to keep this sort of thing going, and we're almost there. We've damn near made it. I mean, it doesn't seem like that long ago. We were talking back in January, looking ahead to the draft and free agency, and now we're a couple weeks away from another season kicking off. So I'm happy to be here with you guys, and it's always an interesting season because this team's not capable of playing a normal season of football. So, like we've said numerous times before, there is no team that gives you more for your entertainment dollar than your Minnesota Vikings. So we will be here for all of it.
Right.
Speaking of entertainment dollars, Skull Mafia and just dropped $9.99. Norsefius just dropped $5. Thank you very much.
I love you guys. You guys are great.
We don't pocket any of this money. Drew and Ruby, they handle all that. It goes towards stuff for the prize vault. So guys, again, thanks so much to what I believe is the smartest community of fans in any podcast anywhere. You guys are awesome. You're funny. You're smart. Your comments are great. I can't read them all, but I do see them all. And I'm kind of, if I was kind of a downer tonight, my apologies. I was fired up about JJ McCarthy. But we move on.
Here's the thing about McCarthy, real fast. Nobody loves McCarthy more. He's my boy, national champion for my Michigan Wolverine. Nobody's more bummed to me. But you know what? I'm trying to put it behind me, and we got to look forward to this season. JJ McCarthy thing, I'm not going to worry about it anymore. And I know some people are going to carry on to worry about it, but got to get ready for this season.
Yeah, it is what it is. We roll with Sam Darnold, and look, the Vikings still have a good football team, and Sam Darnold's has not had this much talent around him in his career. I think he's got a good coaching staff. I think and the Vikings are going to be better than most people think. They got talent on both sides of the ball. They got a good coaching staff on both sides of the ball, and we'll just see where it goes from here.
We roll tonight to the guitar bite, and for those about to rock, we salute you.
All right. So for ACDC to my left, for the lead blogger for the Daily Norseman, right below us, I'm Ted, Skull Vikings, and we will see you next Wednesday.